The Border Patrol will deploy elite tactical agents to sanctuary cities. Agents from a special tactical team that normally confront smugglers on the border are being sent to sanctuary cities across the country. And I think it is unfortunate that this is happening. But I think it also has to do with the fact that sanctuary cities are not telling ICE and federal law enforcement when they have criminals that they release. Therein lies the big problem. But before we talk about the elite agents, look at this dude. This is like a stormtrooper. We've got this story from a few days ago, which needs to be talked about, in my opinion. Bill Barr announces sweeping new sanctions, significant escalation against left-wing sanctuary cities. What's interesting to me about this whole debate is the 2A sanctuary cities in Virginia and what would happen there. But I got to admit, in these two battles, you have in Virginia Second Amendment sanctuaries where American citizens are defending a constitutional right. And in these circumstances, you have, liberal left-wing cities defending people who are here without documentation, who are illegally here, right? So the reason I bring that up is that when it comes to the sanctuary city argument with Virginia, you're dealing with a potential for a serious civil conflict, American citizens on American citizens. This is American citizens defending non-citizens, so I don't see how that actually escalates into anything too crazy. But, let's read a little bit about the sanctions, too, just very quickly, so that I can get to the elite stormtrooper action. Is stormtrooper a pejorative? Does that mean? I don't know. Anyway, charging that so-called sanctuary cities that protect illegal immigrants are jeopardizing domestic security. Attorney General Bill Barr announced a slew of additional sanctions that he called a significant escalation against left-wing local and state governments that obstruct the lawful functioning of our nation's immigration system. Speaking at the National Sheriff's Association 2020 Winter Legislative and Technology Conference in D.C., Barr said the Justice Department would immediately file multiple lawsuits against sanctuary jurisdictions for unconstitutionally interfering with federal immigration enforcement and implement unprecedented national reviews of the left-wing sanctuary governments. The DOJ has now filed a federal complaint with the state of New Jersey seeking declaratory and injunctive relief against its laws that forbid state and local law enforcement from sharing vital information about criminal aliens with DHS. So, okay, I'm not going to read too much into this. We're going to get into the elite agents heading to sanctuary cities. But I want to point out something very, very important here. When Donald Trump was being impeached, the Democrats did not seek court relief. They just claimed he was obstructing Congress. Okay, well, we have a checks and balances system. Here you're seeing the Department of Justice seeking relief from the courts. The executive branch and the DOJ seeking relief from the courts, the way it's supposed to work. And if the courts rule in their favor, then they win. But because things have gotten so bad, I got to say, I'm actually worried about this. These guys, I understand the purpose of these elite special forces or whatever you want to call it, special tactical team, when they're dealing with smugglers on the border. But inside cities, we do not want an escalation of a police state. It's the last thing we need. And I have warned against this, that it's the far left policies which will result in Americans begging for security. That's exactly what we want to avoid. I don't know if we can, though. The Times reports the Trump administration is deploying law enforcement tactical units from the southern border as part of a supercharged arrest operation in sanctuary cities across the country. An escalation in the president's battle against localities that refuse to participate in immigration enforcement. The specially trained officers are being sent to cities including Chicago and New York to boost the enforcement power of local ICE officers, according to two officials who are familiar with the secret operation. Additional agents are expected to be sent to San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, Houston, Boston, New Orleans, Detroit, and Newark, New Jersey. The move reflects President Trump's persistence in cracking down on sanctuary cities, localities that have refused to cooperate in handing over illegal immigrants, or I guess immigrants too, targeted for deportation to federal authorities. It comes soon after the Justice Department and Department of Homeland Security announced a series of measures that will affect both American citizens and immigrants living in those places. Please, New York Times, stop with the bias. What do you expect? No one is talking about legal immigrants. They always do this as if there's only one kind. Everybody agrees with a legal, not everybody. Most people agree with a legal immigration process. You come in, you get screened. If you're good, you're good. We want to make sure that we don't cause an economic imbalance, strain. We don't want people with diseases, for instance, coming in. So we have customs and border protection to make sure these things occur properly. But illegal immigration is different. These people are not vaccinated. They have illnesses. They are poor. They're wandering through the desert. They're risking their lives and their children's lives. It is not a good thing. Now this pisses me off. The last thing I want to see is the federal government escalating authoritarianism. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, Tim, it's law enforcement. Calm down. Fine. Authoritarianism is a little bombastic, I will admit. But this is the path we're trying to avoid. And it would be wise of Barr and Trump to tread carefully. This is thin ice. You want to make sure that you maintain that base of support from the more libertarian right-leaning individuals. You better be careful how you go about sending in special forces and tactical units into cities to deal with this. I can sympathize with the plan to deal with these criminals. I really can. But I just say this. I get it. Okay. I'm keeping an eye on it. They better make sure everything is above board. They better make sure they adhere to the Constitution, because even people here illegally are constitutionally protected. You cross that line, I'll be the first person to call them out. So far, sending in an elite team isn't that big of a deal. But it gives me a little exclamation point above my head. Like, hey. My biggest fear with all of the Antifa stuff was that the more the far left crazies commit crimes and do these things, the more you will see regular Americans begging the federal government to save us. And then you will see National Guard and special forces out on your streets, on your street corners. That is not a world we want to be building. And do not give anyone an excuse. Now, I can understand why they want to go out to these sanctuary cities, because you literally have murderers, drug dealers, and rapists being let go by these due to these left-wing positions and laws. And that is bad to me, too. And because of that, you are creating a requirement among law enforcement to escalate. Please, can we de-escalate things? Unfortunately, the answer is no, but hopefully court relief comes, like I mentioned earlier, in the form of Bill Barr filing these lawsuits. Hopefully the courts force the local jurisdictions to enforce these things. Because I will tell you this, you will regret the day we went from officer friendly, making that arrest, to jackboot thugs storming, breaking down the door with tactical gear on. Right now, we have an opportunity to de-escalate everything. If these sanctuary cities just say we will abide with the laws of our country, law enforcement should. Now, I'm making a joke about officer friendly, obviously just regular cops, regular people. But I'd rather see a dude in blue doing his normal patrol job, taking somebody in, and then saying, ICE, this guy is wanted federally. That's what we want. If you don't do that, things will get worse. And I can't necessarily blame the federal government for saying we need special enforcement to deal with some of the worst criminals our country has ever seen, who are being released by these sanctuary city policies. This is where things go bad. It's a conflict, but it results in absolute chaos. The next step, if the federal government, if ICE, if these special tactics dudes start acting, start crossing that line, then you are going to see more far left insanity in turn, and we must avoid the escalation. For now, I don't know what to say, man, because it's dominoes falling over. I know exactly why they're coming in, and it's worrying because I've predicted just this, these types of things, not specifically on immigration, but it's like I said about Antifa. You will get people saying, bring in the troops because we got to deal with this. And I assure you, probably many Trump supporters are saying it. There is nothing inherently wrong with what these special forces do. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them. They have an important job. They're dealing with law enforcement, and they're trying to stop the bad guys. I absolutely respect that. My concern is with a runaway administration. And I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about the office. We do not want power expanding. And I've pointed out before, there is some light coming from the end of the tunnel when dealing with the House, the Democrats' attacks on Trump in the White House. And it's that for once, we have the executive authority in check. It's honest to say I think they're nuts and they're taking it way too far. But hey, I can say it's a little good, in some capacities. I think it's fair to say most people who back Trump do not want to see armed police SWAT vehicles on every corner. And that's one of the reasons they criticize Antifa for doing this. So we need to deal with this problem. And that requires, I suppose, voting. And I don't know. It's one of the biggest conundrums coming from a moderate. I'll tell you this. Because there are policies I think are really serious on the left that I'm for. But I'm going to cite Jack Murphy again, because I don't know if you guys saw that podcast I did with him. He said when many cultural issues came off the table, he was able to join the Republican Party with ease. Many people will say the same thing come 2020. Nobody wants to see this. So I will end by saying this. I will wrap this all up and try and give you my concise points. I have no problem with law enforcement like these, special forces coming in, doing their jobs. My respect. It's a difficult line of work. And I want to put the blame first and foremost on the people who will not turn over the criminals. My concern is not with these individuals. It's with the escalation. We do not want to get to that point. Stop and frisk, for instance, in New York, as far as I'm concerned, is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And that was Mike Bloomberg taking brown and black kids from Harlem, pushing them up against the wall, searching their pockets without cause. That's a violation of search and seizure of our constitutional rights. I do not want to see that encroachment. And I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point. And that means these sanctuary cities need to do the right thing. If you have a violent criminal, do not just let them go. You are risking everyone's safety and lives. But hopefully this ends where it is. I just don't think it will. And I got a painting of a horrifying future. We'll see what happens. Stick around. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. Podcast every day at 6:30. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all next time.